Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin, and today we are going to continue looking at third declension nouns. Last time, you may remember, my daughter Emma and I had a little run through how rex and opus work, and I think we were able to make Emma accept that adjectives do not always rhyme with their nouns. But today we're just going to have another look at third declension nouns, perhaps a little bit less light-hearted than last time, and identify some of the areas where you have genuinely got to be careful when you are using third declension nouns, because the endings that we've become a little bit blasé about, I hope we've become familiar with them, but perhaps that has led to certain relaxation, and now we've just got to be absolutely certain that when we identify nouns in a Latin sentence, we know which declension they are. So that an ending such as which we've always thought was a lovely accusative singular ending, suddenly it's looking as if it could be a genitive plural. And the ending E, so that's the letter I, we always used to think, oh, lovely, nominative plural, it's going to be the subject, it's easy. Or maybe it's a genitive singular, like, from annus. All of a sudden we've got the third declension, and it could in fact be a dative singular. So unless you know the declension of the noun you're working with, you can only be guessing when you try and translate it. Okay, so you must know which declension the noun is. Okay, so I thought the best way to demonstrate this would be to just go through a couple of sentences and we'll see the sort of problems that we might face. And we're going to start by going from English into Latin. Always my preferred route if you're really trying to nail a grammatical problem. Okay, so let's start with a simple sentence such as, the kings were ruling in the city. Okay, the kings were ruling in the city. Now, the subject of that sentence is the kings, and the Latin for a king we now know is rex. So we want the nominative plural of rex, and with any luck we don't have too much difficulty with that, reges. Okay, so there's our subject, the kings. Now the verb, as always, we do last. When we get there, we will want they were ruling. And they were ruling in the city. Okay, Latin for in is in plus the ablative. So we need in. And then we want the ablative of the word for city. Now, city is urbs, very hard word to pronounce correctly. It's a short U, but it's followed by an R and a B and an S, which, is kind of quite a lot of consonants to get together while still preserving the short U noise. So urbs, and you've got to roll that R, so lots of problems. Now, urbs, urbis, feminine, a city, so it goes like rex. And we want the ablative singular of that, so urbe. Okay, so reges in urbe, and then they were ruling regebant. Okay, nice, relatively easy one to start with. Do another one, nice and easy. The soldiers saw the consul. Okay, now, Latin for a soldier is miles, and it goes miles, militis, masculine. Okay, so the nominative plural of miles, remember we need to go to the stem, milit, and add the nominative plural ending, which is ace. So we've got milites. They saw, verb at the end. When we get there, it'll be they saw. And who or what did they see? They saw the consul. Latin for consul is consul, consulis, masculine. So it goes like rakes. We want that in the accusative case because it's the object. So we get consulem, consulem. Okay, so milites consulem, and then they saw. Video, you remember, means I see, and we want that in either the imperfect tense, which would be videbant, or perhaps if we wanted to use the perfect tense, a kind of simple past, that would be viderunt. Okay, video, videri, weedy, weesome. Third principal part, weedy, chop off the I, add the perfect tense endings. I isti it, imus istis erunt. Okay, so milites consulem viderunt. Okay, we'll do one more of these, bringing a question this time. So, why has the leader warned the soldiers? Okay, Latin for why, cur, and it's introducing a question. Why has the leader warned the soldiers? So the subject is the leader. Latin for leader is dux. So cur dux. Warned. Now that's going to come at the end. Why has he warned? He has warned. That'll be at the end. And why has the leader warned the soldiers? They are the object. They're going to go in the accusative plural. Latin for soldier is miles, militis, masculine. So the accusative plural of that, milites. So we get cur, dux, milites, and then we want why has he warned? So that's he has warned, monuit. So cur, dux, milites, monuit. And a nice question mark at the end. Okay, now I always find it easier going that way in a sense because, as I've said before, you're in charge. You are thinking carefully about the words you're using, how those words go, which case to put nouns in, which tense to put verbs in, how to use a preposition, which case the preposition will be followed by, and as long as you follow it through really, really carefully, I mean, it's a bit bold to say you can't go wrong, but you're in charge of the process. However, when you go the other way, when some other blighter has written the Latin and you've got to try and work out what he or she meant when he or she wrote it, you've got to be a little bit more careful. So I've got a couple for us here. We've got milites ducem ad urbem duxerunt. Okay? Milites ducem ad urbem duxerunt. Normal rules, we go to the verb first. Duxerunt, third person plural, the subject must be either they or a noun in the nominative plural. Okay, so back we come to the beginning of the sentence looking for a nominative plural. Okay. Now, at the beginning of the sentence, we've got milites. Now, the trouble with the third declension, as we now know, is that in the plural, there is no distinction between the nominative and the vocative and the accusative case. So, milites at the front could be nominative, vocative, or accusative plural. In other words, it could be the subject or the object. So, potentially, milites is our subject, the soldiers. And then we would have duxerunt, led, the soldiers led. Now let's go with that because it's sort of sounding all right. Let's see if there's an object. And we've got ducem. Okay, well, actually, ducem is quite nice because that really can only be accusative singular. It's coming from dux. And so that is the object. So you've now got the soldiers led the leader. Where did they lead him? Well, they led him ad urbem. Now, ad plus the accusative means towards. So ud, we look at the next word and it will be in the accusative case, and sure enough, urbem is the accusative singular of urbs. So the soldiers led the leader to the city. Okay? Right, we'll do another one. Rex milites transflumina ducebat. Okay, go to the verb first. Ducebat, third person singular. The subject must be he, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular. Now this one is a bit easier because actually at the beginning of that sentence we've got rex, and that word can only be nominative singular or perhaps vocative. But as we've discussed in the past, vocatives are very identifiable because almost always you've got inverted commas, somebody is talking to someone, that's why they're using the vocative, and you will have a verb almost always in the second person singular because you are talking to that person. You, oh king, you are doing something. So rex at the beginning of a sentence is 99% likely to be the subject. So we've got the king, ducebat, was leading. Who was he leading? Who or what? Right, back to the beginning, we've got milites transflumina. Now, milites could be nominative, vocative, or accusative plural, but it can't actually be nominative plural because we've already identified that our subject is he, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular. So milites could not possibly be nominative plural, and therefore it must be accusative plural. So the king was leading the soldiers, and then transflumina. Right, trans plus the accusative means across. We get words like transatlantic, transcontinental, trans whatever. My daughter would say trans, so I think so would a lot of people. And flumina. Now, flumina, that ending A is a bit worrying because it looks a little bit like a nominative singular ending from our old friend mensa, or perhaps an ablative singular, kind of mensa, mensa, mensam, 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 mensa. But because it's coming after the word trans, which is a preposition that governs the accusative, we know the word flumina is in the accusative case. Now, if it's in the accusative case and it ends in an A, it has to be accusative plural because there isn't any other accusative singular ending that ends in A. It's got to be accusative plural. Flumen means a river, so the king was leading the soldiers across the rivers. Okay, now this is the sort of area where people start, making little tiny mistakes and they all add up and it snowballs and becomes chaos. You've got to really stick to the accuracy of what you've been taught so far on this course. So don't just guess. Don't say that the king was leading the soldiers across the river, which sort of is what you're expecting. How many rivers are you going to cross? Well, in this sentence, the answer is more than one. The king was leading the soldiers transflumina across the rivers. Okay? And while we're on the subject of not guessing, I'm just going to do one other short little sentence. Imagine you had opera militum laudavit. Okay, now the scope for disaster here is enormous. It sort of looks, even if you're good and you go to your verb first and you get laudavit and you see that it's third person singular, so the subject is he, she, or it, or a noun in the nominative singular, you kind of see a nice word at the beginning of the sentence ending in an A, and you're thinking back to your mensa days, first declension nouns, mensa and puella and agricola and nauta and incola. That's how we used to find subjects. Nominative singular case ending in A was the subject of a sentence in the good old days. Opera, you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't quite know what it means, but I bet it's the subject. Then you see militum, and you think, well, I'm not quite sure what that means. It looks a bit like a soldier. Used to be our lovely accusative singular ending, like an us, an et, an. So the danger of you thinking opera, whatever it means, is the subject. Militum, guess it's a soldier as the object, and then laudavit, we know means praised. So you're kind of going to say something praised the soldier, and the whole thing is a disaster. And it's a disaster because when we follow our golden rules and we look at laudavit and we see that it's third person singular, and we tell ourselves that the subject therefore must be either he, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular, at that point, when you go looking for a noun in the nominative singular, the point is you don't find one. Because opera, although it looks like a nominative singular feminine noun like mensa, actually we know it isn't. It's the nominative, vocative or accusative plural of the third declension noun opus. Okay? Now, it can't be nominative plural because we've already agreed our verb is looking for a third person singular. It's looking for a singular subject. So opera has got to be accusative plural. Opus means work. So opera means the works, but when the works are the object. Okay. Then we move on to militum, and the lazy ones who thought, yeah, it's accusative singular, like an us, an et, an. Well, no, it isn't. Miles, militis, masculine a soldier, goes miles, miles, militem, militis, militi, milite, milites, 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 militum. Right, well, that's genitive plural. So it means of the soldiers. Okay, so you're then left with an object, opera, the works, militum, of the soldiers, and we still haven't got our subject. Well, that's because the subject is in the verb. It's the he, the she, or the it. The pronoun buried in that ending it. Okay, so it means he, she, or it has praised the works of the soldiers. Okay. Now, I think I've probably gone down on record as saying rego is a pig. The verb rego, it behaves in a way that kind of catches you out if you're not careful. Well, the noun rakes, in other words, third declension nouns, rakes is also a pig. Just like rego was a pig, rakes is a pig, perhaps even a bigger pig, because it's just there to catch you out. Endings that look singular are in fact plural. Endings that look plural are in fact singular. You've just really got to learn it properly. Okay. Now, that's not the end of the world because we're good at learning stuff now. Rakes, rakes, regem. Regis, regi, rege. Reges, reges, reges. Regum, regibus, regibus. Those endings have got to be buried in your head and not muddled up with, for example, anus, an et, anum, ani, ano, ano, ani, anos, anorum, anis, anis, and certainly not muddled up with mensa, mensa, mensam, mensai, mensai, mensar, mensai, mensai, mensas, mensarum, mensis, mensis. Okay? All of these endings, which are so important in Latin, sitting on the end of words, they only work for you if you know what the word was in the first place. Was it a first declension noun like mensa? Was it a second declension noun like annus? or was it a third declension noun like rakes? Really, really important that you know before you try to translate it. Otherwise, you will, I'm afraid, just guess it, and, you know, you might be right, you might get a lucky break, but you probably won't, and then that'll be sad for everyone. Okay? Right, so that's really all I wanted to do today on third declension nouns, just to sort of reassure you that they're not that easy, but nor are they that difficult. If you learn the endings and follow your rules, you'll be fine with them. Okay? Okay, now, just another little thing that you've got to be careful about when you're using third declension nouns, and we did mention this last time when we put Emma on the spot and proved that adjectives do not always rhyme with their nouns. When you're using third declension nouns, the adjective that agrees with a third declension noun will almost never rhyme with it. There are plenty of times when it will, but in the majority of cases it won't. Okay, so if you're doing something like the tired soldiers, you know that the Latin for soldier is miles, and you want it in, let's say, the nominative plural. You've gone miles, miles, miletem, miletis, mileti, milete, miletes. So there you are in the nominative plural, miletes. And you want the word tired, which is fessus, to agree with miletes. Well, I hope it's kind of clear to you that it is not miletes fesses, because fessus, which means tired, goes like bonus. And so the nominative masculine plural ending for bonus is boni, not bones. So you get miletes boni. Okay? And you know, if you're going from Latin into English, you might have a sentence like de arbore magna. Right, well, you see the Latin word de, which is a preposition followed by the ablative, and it means down from or concerning. It means either down from or concerning. Okay. So you know that the next word after it will be in the ablative. Now, de arbore magna. Arbore comes from arbor, arboris, feminine, a tree. And to get it into its ablative singular, you've gone arbor, arbor, arborem, arboris, arbori, arbore. So there you are. De arbore means down from the tree. And then you've got magna, an adjective agreeing with arbore, certainly not rhyming with it, but agreeing with it, because that word too is in the ablative feminine singular. Magna. Okay, so you've slightly got to be on your toes with these little fellows. Next time, I'm just going to show you two third declension nouns which behave in a slightly different way to rakes and opus. It's a little bit like we had to learn puer and magister, you know, as second declension nouns that do something slightly different. Well, in the third declension, there are nouns which do something that is slightly different from rakes and opus. But we'll have a look at that next time. Any problems, drop me a comment in the comments box below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And until next time, keep learning these endings until they are rock solid in your head. Okay, see you next time.